Hello, all, Sique here, and welcome back to the Path to Unpunishable. Today we're doing card 3, the empty cup. There's a saying that you can't pour from an empty cup. You hear about it all the time, and it's true. And I've known this was true forever. My mother told me, my friends told me, therapists, pastors, co-workers, and well-meaning strangers have all said that to me at one time or another. But the same people who ask this often believe that they are the exception. They promise just to take a sip, just a little bit, just this once. It's such a small thing. Now, for the sake of this card, we're going to assume that every request that's made of you is in good faith, needed, appreciated, reasonable. Because we're going to talk about bad faith request and entitlement card for the chain of favors. But let's assume for now that everything that people are asking you is of good faith. They love you, they care about you, and they care about their empty cup. Even then, when was the last time you stopped to check your levels? Because all those little sips do add up. And so I made this card, the empty cup. And this card matters because burnout rarely arrives as some dramatic collapse or panic attack or everything falling apart. It comes quietly, disguised as generosity, reliability, and being the one who can handle it, quote unquote. It shows up when you've been saying yes for so long you stop noticing the cost. Now, this card isn't about selfishness, boundaries as punishment, or hardening your heart. This has nothing to do about that. It's about being aware of your limits and how to take care of yourself. Because you can't refill what you refuse to measure. You can't protect what you pretend isn't infinite. If you think you have it all the time and it ain't tricking if you got it, you're not going to look at how little you have. And so the empty cup asks a simple but dangerous question. What do you actually have left? Not what you wish you had, not what people assume you have. Oh, you're so strong. None of that. What do you actually have in the tank right now? This card interrupts the lie that endurance equals virtue. And so, when doing this art, I couldn't think of a better image than the cup sprites. That's Asher, Sergio, and Hank. In my Shaman States of America Monster Hunting universe, there are slimes who specialize in gaining energy or HP by eating everything around them. They don't judge the source. They don't moralize the input. They consume, break it down, and transmute it into something usable. And that's a good thing and a bad thing, but we're going to focus on the good stuff. Because in this card series and in most of my games, they represent transmutation. The ability to take what you're given and to make something for yourself out of it. And you're like, how do these relate? Well, if you don't check, you don't know to sit up there and get energy. One thing that, well, we're going to do two things, but the one thing that I want to stress here is if you don't check, you don't know to go get your energy. And the cup sprites reminds you that we are constantly trying to fill our cup. We should be constantly trying to fill it up to things that give us joy, transmuting things that hurt. We should always be doing that. And a lot of times we are, but then letting people take sips here and there, here and there, here and there, here and there. And the danger is that we'll go and get tired because we're always searching for a new thing to ingest. But here's the secret that most people won't say out loud. Attention is power. What you give attention to has power over you if you let it. Once again, a good or bad thing. But if you give attention to your levels, you'll know how to shepherd them properly. right? Because we all know people don't just ask because we're kind. They ask because you have the capacity. They ask because they see you constantly feeding and constantly filling this cup. They can feel it. They can see it. They can sense when you notice things, hold space, solve problems, and absorb all that emotional weight. And even when they mean well, they're still drawing from a resource. All those little sips. And once again, we're talking about people who are acting in good faith. They really do want us to fill that cup, but they're going to take that sip. And resources, especially living ones, especially us, require stewardship. And the cup sprites aren't endless. They eat, they process, they roll up into their little balls to rest. And they don't apologize for stopping. They don't apologize for stopping. They know when they need to rest. And they rest without apology. And they stop when they're full without apology. They don't explain themselves to the ecosystem. They know if they keep consuming without pause, the system collapses with them along with it. The art here and what they represent isn't about being drained. It's knowing when to stop pouring. And so, how does the empty cup look like through the lens? Well, empathy is probably the reason why you are generous. It made you generous. You learned early that knowing how to read rooms, anticipate needs, and softening discomfort sometimes before anyone asks. How about putting that towards yourself? You're meant to. Truth is saying that you've been giving from fumes. Truth is what you're not looking at when you are giving from fumes. And you think you're weak or you think you're being a bad person. None of that. It's not because you're weak. It's because you were taught that depletion was normal and noble and even expected. We have to sacrifice, right? But kindness, doing the right thing with accurate knowledge, reminds you that no one thrives on self-neglect. Don't care what they say, they usually cope in some way. But that's not thriving either. And the person who thrives the least on self-neglect is the person doing the giving. That's the reason why a lot of people are selfish. And a lot of people, that's also why a lot of people, and we're going into this in the next card, give and will ask you to give because they know how much it depletes. Anti-greed nudges you to stop being the bottomless well, especially if people see it as a right. Hoarding isn't the same as stewardship, and self-erasure is not stewardship either. You're going to have to know when to say when. And with joy, it kind of arrives softly, not loud and demanding. It just asks one question. What would it feel like to refill first? Right? The empty cup isn't about shame. It's about honesty. It's the moment you stop pretending exhaustion is sustainable. And it's also the moment when you stop pretending that exhaustion is your destiny or the norm. So, what is the lesson here? Well, this card is, the goal of this card, the hope for this card is that you learn to check in with yourself without judgment. This isn't the cut everyone off card. That card comes later. It's not asking you to burn bridges or disappear into solitude. It teaches you to pause before saying yes automatically, to notice the internal flinch, to recognize it when your mind goes, why are we feeling this way? To look at it without shame or guilt and recognize the difference between generosity and obligation. The empty cup is inviting you to ask yourself, is this request aligned with what I actually have? Not what I want to have, not what they expect me to have, but what I actually have. Am I offering from abundance or from a fear of disappointing someone? That's the trap that usually gets me. And do I believe that rest must be earned? Good questions. It also reframes boundaries. Boundaries can be walls, but more importantly, they're measurement tools. They tell you when your energy ends and someone else's responsibility begins. This card teaches you that saying not right now is not a moral failure. It's a data point. And when you learn to check your levels, you stop resenting the people you love. You stop feeling hollow after doing the right thing. You know, when you say no and you spend 30 to 40 hours sitting there thinking that everybody hates you, that part. You reclaim your choices, and the choice is power. Having the choice, making the choice is power. So, on the path of unpunishable, the empty cup is where punishment culture loses its grip. Because punishment culture teaches that rest is laziness, that availability and access equals worth, and that saying no deserves consequences. This card breaks that spell and reminds you that exhaustion is never the proof of goodness. It's the proof that you're overworking yourself unnecessarily. When you stop pouring from an empty cup, you become harder to manipulate. Guilt stops working the way it used to. Urgency loses its false authority, and you learn that survival does not require self-sacrifice. Unpunishable doesn't mean untouchable, though. It means no longer offering yourself up as the cost of admission. So for that, let's, as I leave, wow, we're rocking up on 13 minutes. Let me leave you with a blessing and a little bit of an exercise. I want you to hold your hands out and picture the cup in your hands. It's not cracked or broken. It's just empty. There's no accusations here, only data, only information. May you learn to recognize your own thirst before others notice it. May you refill without apology. May your yes become intentional and your no become gentle and firm. May you remember that you are not a resource to be depleted. You're not a strip mine, but a living system to be tended to, a garden. And when your cup is full again, you will pour, but not because you must. It's because you choose to. Amen. I'll see you for card 4, the Chain of Favors. Talk to you soon.